So, Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is definitely one of those chapters, like I've said in the past, that it's a lot easier to understand things if you've been behind the wheel. Because Chapter 7 is definitely more of an application chapter. So if there are things that don't quite make sense, this is your time to ask. So go through, find out what you want to know on Chapter 7.
What is the shoulder?
Shoulder is the side of the road. Let me see if they have any good pictures here. All right. So this is I'm on 125. Granted, I know that's not the correct chapter, but still applies the same. So these white lines right here, you have a little bit of extra space, and then you have a grassy area, or say on the interstate, it's a little bit wider. They just have like this extra space in the road. Sometimes there's vehicles pulled off there. Sometimes there's debris there. So they call it a shoulder just like they call this a shoulder. Shoulders are off to the side of the main, off to the side of your head. Shoulders in roads are just the area off to the side outside of the lanes. So some shoulders are narrow, some shoulders are wider. And in some cases, some streets don't have shoulders. Like if you're driving in town, they don't have shoulders. It's just two driving lanes, maybe a parking lane on either or both sides, and a curb, and that's it. Those aren't considered shoulders. Those are considered parking lanes. But shoulders are, typically you'll see shoulders on interstates, which is just the area of the road outside of the lanes.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. What else?
Can you explain the different types of vision on 143?
Yeah, that's a great question, because vision will be a good portion of your test. Everything on 143 is going to be on the test, guaranteed. So, looking at the different types of vision, you have central, fringe, and peripheral. So the orange highlight from those statements are basically the main features of that particular vision. And they have a really good diagram and photo on page 143 on that top portion. So starting with the central vision is meant for targeting. Okay, it's basically what you should use your central vision is looking down the road at your intended path of travel. So it is a very small portion of it, there obviously it's smaller than the other three, or the other two, sorry. So usually in class, what I do is I give an example of it. So what I want you to do is to focus on something in your room, something that's a little bit further away. You know, at least like 10 feet away, but something relatively small, okay? So let me see if I can. Okay, I can't really change this, but that's fine. I can at least turn my computer around. Okay, so I want you to at least see what I'm focusing on. Okay, so looking out into my living room, I have a bookcase, but that's too big to focus on. Okay, so above the bookcase, there's a clock. Okay, so what I'm focusing on is basically there's the clock itself, but then there's a gold portion in the middle. And that's what my central vision focused on. Okay, so if you can find something in your room, something like that, probably no bigger than if you take a fist and then clench your fist around that, try and focus on something like that, about that size, at least 10 feet away. Okay, and hopefully that object is near something else within a couple feet away. Okay, so when you do that, focus on that object. And then what I want you to do is I want you to try and see if you can identify anything from that object about 2 feet away without moving your eyes and focusing your central vision on that object. Okay, so the reality is you can't do it. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through what I saw on mine. So the clock face overall is probably just a little bit smaller than the driver's ed manual that we have here. Okay, the clock face can fit on this book. Okay, so I focused on something that's probably only about a quarter the size of the book. And obviously, you know how a clock works. There's numbers all the way around it. So when I focus on that gold portion, I cannot read the numbers that are on the clock. Okay. Now, do I know where the numbers are? And do I, can I look there and say, okay, well, 6 is on the bottom? Yeah, because I memorized that. Okay. But I cannot clearly see the 6. Okay. I can see that there are black markings around it, but that's all I can see because my focus is right in the middle. And I know they're numbers, but that's just because I've seen a clock before and I know how a clock works. So, but typically in my classroom, for those of you that have been in there, the example that I give is I have you focus on the periodic table. And typically I'll have you focus on maybe a word at the top because it's big enough, or I have you focus on one element. And then I ask you to tell me the element that's right next to it. And most people can't do it unless they found something that they know that's right next to it, but you can't clearly see what it is. Okay. So that is your, let me get back here to my page. That is your central vision. Okay, it's mainly for targeting. It's for you to look down the road at your intended path of travel. excuse me, your fringe vision moves out a little bit more. It's a little bit wider than your central vision. And again, your fringe vision, your two main concepts from that is depth and position. Okay. So looking down the road to be able to judge where things are. And as far as driving goes, you use your fringe vision to help keep you centered in your lane. Okay. And then peripheral vision is mainly color and motion. Okay. So again, as you look at your peripheral vision, it starts just outside of your fringe vision, but then goes, again, depending on how well your peripheral vision is, you should have at least 180 degrees. So if you put your hands to the side by your ears, as you move out, you should be able to see your hands at some point in time. And some are able to go back a little bit behind, but they need to be also further out. Okay. So with that, as I look at my computer screen, I can see the refrigerator in the kitchen. Now, obviously, I couldn't see the refrigerator as good as if I looked this way to see it, but I can see that the refrigerator is there. Okay. I would be able to tell a little bit more if the refrigerator moved forward or backwards, because again, the biggest thing that I can pick up is things that have color and things that move. So typically when you see things move, your peripheral vision is what picks that up. Okay. And then color blindness is an interesting issue with drivers. Color blindness is something that is fairly common. Is there anyone in here that's colorblind? Or anyone willing to admit that they're colorblind? And if not, that's fine. So they have the colorblind test on there. And this is one of the most common colorblind tests because what colors are typically the hardest to distinguish in most people that are colorblind?
Red and green.
Red and green, good. So this is a perfect test. If you can't see the 5 in that test, then you have a level of color blindness. So in some cases, it's like the 5 looks red, or in some cases, some people have more severe color blindness to where a couple of different colors look gray, like they can't see what the color actually looks like. So again, all of those things are important. A good portion of this chapter deals with vision. Here they talk about the different types of vision, but it's how you use your vision is what keeps you safe. Sight is by far the most important sense that you have in driving. It's the most commonly used sight, or it's the most commonly used sense that you use in everyday life. Okay. Unless you have vision issues, like being legally blind or completely blind. Obviously, that would affect how you take driver's ed because that poses a big issue. But that's why vision is so important. That's why no matter when you go in to get your permit or your license or whatever the case may be, you always have to take a test. And what test is that?
Vision test.
You always have to take a vision test. Okay. You can't go in and renew your license without taking a vision test. Because vision is so important in driving. And if your vision's good, it's only as good as how you use it. I know there are several of you that have vision issues and you wear glasses. But glasses are intended to correct vision issues to get you to as close as 20/20 as possible. So most of you, when you wear glasses, you have 20/20 vision. Because without glasses, you may be 20/40 or 20/80 or whatever the case may be. But then the glasses or contacts correct that to 20/20. Or at least as close as you can. If they can't correct it down to 20/20, then that means that you do have bigger vision issues. But that's why it's also important to make sure that you wear your glasses if you do have a prescription set of glasses. I do have a friend that was charged with impaired driving, which was basically the equivalent of a DUI. So he basically got a DUI because he wasn't wearing his glasses. Okay. Now, is that going to happen every time? I don't know, probably not. But it is important to make sure that if you have prescription glasses, that you do wear those when you drive. All right, is that a pretty good answer, Carly, for the three main visions?
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, no problem. All right, what else you guys got?
Is the ground viewing just looking at the ground when you drive?
Yeah. Sorry. In general, I know ground viewing just thinks look down at the ground. But there's obviously a lot of different reasons as to why you would look towards the ground. Obviously, due to the Earth's gravity, things fall to the ground. They fall towards the Earth. So anything that doesn't belong in the street or on the road, that's why you want to make sure that you pay attention to those things. By looking at a vehicle's tires, you can see some different things that you're doing. Obviously, the first thing that's going to move if a vehicle turns is the tires are going to start rotating. So those are some clues and indications that you can use as far as ground viewing to identify different types of situations. Let's see, what else did they put in there? Looking at the ground to look at lane position of yourself and other vehicles. Just by watching a car, that won't tell you if they're staying in the lane. You have to kind of check the ground to see if the car is in their correct lane position. So there's a lot of different things. The task does seem just as easy, Lauren, as just looking at the ground. But obviously there's a lot more feedback that you get from it by looking at the ground. So there's a lot of different things that you'll look at, but just a lot of different things that you go to assess as you look. So checking other vehicles and checking their lane position, checking for objects, things like that. So it's just a little bit more than, I guess, as they say, looking at the ground. It's just looking for feedback as you check there in your orderly search pattern. All right, what else you guys got? guess I did forget. So to give you guys a little bit of time here, I forgot to do attendance this morning. All right, back to record. All right, what other questions do you have?
Can you explain selective searching?
Yeah. Okay. So selective searching kind of goes with the two previous pages of information. So it's your basically using effective visual habits, using a visual search pattern, so you're just taking all that information that you look at and then gathering that information. So when you check your mirrors, check out your windows, looking out front through your windshield, down the road, off to the sides of the road, you're picking up all that information and choosing what to do with it. Obviously, as you look at that picture on 149, are the leaves on the trees information that are going to register high on your radar?
No.
No. Okay, not a big deal. Now, with this being a nicer area, it looks like those are palm trees, so the trunks aren't going to be as big of a deal. What if those trees were bushes? Would that change anything? Anyone? What do you think? If those palm trees were lower lying bushes? Would it change how you view them?
Yes.
All right. That yes sounded like a question. So why do you think that would be different, Claire?
Well, because the trees would block your vision more, but if they were lower.
Okay, good. That's it. We're not really too concerned with the picture here with the trunks because they don't really block much of anything. And granted, what they are where they're sitting is off to the side of the road, which really isn't necessarily a big deal anyways. But if they were low-lying bushes, they're also going to be off of the road. However, they do have the potential to hide things. So if somebody were to walk between the bushes out into the street, that would be a lot tougher to see. So that's a perfect example then of what I mean by selective searching. In that picture, the trees don't really mean anything. But if the situation changed and those were a different type of tree, like a bush, then that might change how you view that input. But in that picture, what's our main concern? What's the first thing you see when you look at the picture? Anyone?
The truck.
The truck. And why does the truck become such an important issue? Is it the truck or is it something else? So, and you may not realize this, but the truck is the first thing that should be flagged in that picture, but it's not because of the truck. What is it that makes the truck so important? What is it that makes you see the truck first? Because I guarantee you, you don't see the truck first.
The trailer?
Okay. Getting warmer.
The orange cone.
The orange cone. Nice, Aubrey. Okay. You see the whole picture. You see the truck, the trailer, the orange cone. But the orange cone is what actually activates something in your brain. Okay. And based on what we learned in chapter 5, I believe it is, what do we know about orange cones?
Doesn't orange mean like construction or temporary work zone?
Yeah. Okay. And orange is very similar to yellow. So yellow being warning, that orange cone, temporary work zone, temporary construction zone, obviously that's a color that should activate in your brain as to, okay, I've got to be more aware of what's going on. And obviously the orange cone is placed there because they're loading and unloading things off a trailer. And obviously it's placed out a little bit because odds are they're probably working out a little bit into the street. So again, it's not the truck that becomes a flag. It's not the trailer that becomes a flag. It's the cone that becomes a flag that helps you notice the trailer and the truck being there. So again, how do you negotiate that? What's the best thing to do as you're driving through there?
Slow down.
Slow down. That's it. And it might even be a situation where I might, in that situation, noting that they are off on the road and not even in my intended lane of travel, what I would probably do is I'd probably take my foot off the accelerator so my speed goes down maybe a mile or two and have it hover over the brake. So in the event that something does show up, then I do need to slow down a little bit more. But basically, I'm driving cautious with my foot off the accelerator. And then as I pass that situation, I resume my speed again. So again, it's not anything that needs to be a careful situation to where you slow down to 5 miles an hour because you're trying to be cautious. Most people might say, well, you can never be too safe. But in driving, that's actually false. There is such thing as being too safe. And sometimes when people try to be too safe, they actually become more dangerous. So for example, on the interstate, can anyone tell me what's one thing that's different about the interstate that's different from any other road? And worst case scenario is you guess and it's not what I'm looking for. Maybe you're right, but it's not what I'm looking for. Or worst case scenario is you're wrong. It's not a big deal. So there's something that's different about the interstate than any other road that you travel on. Can anyone guess what they think it might be?
There's multiple lanes in the same direction.
Okay. And there are other roads that do have multiple lanes in the same direction. But interstates are different because they always have multiple lanes in the same direction. Good guess, just not what I'm looking for.
You can go faster.
You can go faster. There are other places where, like highways and things, where you can go fast. But typically, those are the fastest ones. You are correct, just not what I'm looking for. What else you guys got? I will tell you, Ben, your guess was closer to what I am looking for. Give me one more guess. Come on, who's going to be the brave one? Just need a guess, right or wrong.
You don't want to have to stop on it?
Say again, Aubrey?
You don't want to have to like stop on it?
You don't have to stop?
Or you don't want to like stop on like the side of the road?
Okay. Yeah, you're definitely correct there. You definitely don't want to stop in the interstate, only for emergency purposes. Closer, but again, not what I'm looking for. But again, yours and Ben's answer was fairly close. Interstates are the only road that have a minimum speed limit. So again, close to stopping. You don't really ever want to stop on the interstate unless you absolutely have to. But like on most interstates, I-29 that runs through North Sioux City, they have a minimum speed limit of 40 miles an hour, which means if you have a vehicle that cannot maintain at least 40 miles an hour, it is illegal for that vehicle to be on the interstate. So any of you guys have a moped, can't take that on the interstate unless that thing can go up to 40 miles an hour. But again, things like mopeds, I wouldn't drive those on there anyways, even if it could go over 40 miles an hour. And again, even 40 miles an hour, in my opinion, isn't slow enough. It should be 45, 50 at least. Especially when you have cars going 80 miles an hour, passing somebody going 40, that's pretty dangerous. So it is important that you maintain a reasonable speed. But interstates, that is the one thing that is different, is they have a minimum speed limit, just to kind of add to the last comment that was made. All right, so again, selective searching is applying all those things and classifying what's important, what's not important, and what are you going to do with that. I talked in the last class a little bit about IPD. We spent some time talking about that in the first chapter. How to Drive program doesn't use IPD. The other program that we used it. This program uses a similar version, which they're all the same. It's just how they explain it to you. So I just like IPD because that's what I started with and that's what I've been using. And I just call it IPD because it is an acronym, IPDE. I for identify. So the sooner you can identify something, the better you are of avoiding conflict or collision. So that goes into your search ranges. So the I part should be your 20 to 30. That's when you first should start identifying things that are issues down the road. So the scenario that I went over was 2 kids playing in the driveway. You're driving down a residential road, and those 2 kids playing basketball in the driveway are down the road. So right now, what's your first thought? You're driving down the road in a residential area, and about 3/4 of a block away, there are 2 kids playing basketball in the driveway. What's your first thought?
That the ball might come in the street.
Okay. Ball goes out in the street. All right. Somebody else. What's next?
The kid's gonna run after the ball.
Kid's going to run after the ball. Okay. Somebody else. What's next? Ball rolls out in the street. Kid goes after the ball. What's next? Let's see here. Celia, what do you think?
The driver will have to like look out for the kids that are going to get the ball.
Okay. So what do you think could possibly happen? We've got the ball rolls out in the street, kid goes after the ball, and then what's your first thought?
They're going to be walking back to their driveway.
Okay. So you're not even there yet?
You will. So you'll stop.
But was that your first thought, that you stop?
No, because you probably won't even see the kid yet.
Okay. What was your first thought when the ball rolls out in the driveway and the kid goes after the ball? What was your very first thought?
Slow down.
Slow down?
Yeah.
Okay. And you want to slow down because your first thought was, I don't want to
Hit the kid.
You don't want to hit the kid. Okay. There it is. So your first thought, Celia, just like everyone else's thought, because I know you're thinking this because that's how it works. Your first thought was about hitting the kid. And I know that sounds really bad. I know that sounds really dark, but again, it's your thought. So real quick, camera's on. Who thought about hitting the kid? Okay. Or let me reword it. Who thought about the kid getting hit? Okay. Most all of you are thinking about it. Okay. And that sounds dark. It sounds really bad. But how many of you thought about, well, I need to do this so I don't hit the kid? And if you're not raising your hand now, then we probably need to talk after class because that's messed up. Okay. All right. You can go ahead and go back to your caves. So all of you think about hitting the kid. Okay, but in a good way. Okay, you identify the situation, they're playing basketball. Well, what if, what if, what if, what if? And your mind automatically goes to what if the worst case scenario? Okay, because then your brain automatically goes to what am I going to do to prevent that what if? So again, you identify the kids playing basketball, you predict that the ball rolls out in the street, and you predict that the kid goes after the ball. Okay. But now that's a what if. What if when you drive down, nothing happens? Which is odds are what's going to happen. You know, kids play basketball in the driveway, they continue playing basketball in the driveway, and you drive down the road with no issues. Okay. That's a good what if. But you've already planned the worst case scenario. Okay. That's what being a good driver is. That's what being a predictable driver would do. So if something like that does happen, you've already got a plan in place and you know that you just need to slow down. And in some cases, you might slow down in the event that it happens. So it gives you more time to react. Because that's one thing that you definitely have is you have time if you give yourself time. Okay. So so when you identify that, then you predict, that's the P. And in your prediction, you decide what you're going to do. Okay. So at this point in time, nothing has been done. You just predicted and decided, well, if the ball rolls out in the street, I know I need to stop. So my decision is, I think I'm just going to slow down a little bit so I give myself more time. Okay. Then the E is execution. You actually execute and do what you intend to do. So if D is IPDE, identify, predict, decide, execute. And again, they don't have that directly in the book, but as they go through scenarios, they're doing those same things. The sooner you can see things, the sooner you can make predictions and decide what you need to do to execute them. All right. So I know that was the super long answer, Ben, to your question about selective searching. But again, it's just identifying that information and picking and choosing. So for example, that we gave were the trees. Who gives a rip about the trees? It's not a big deal. The main concern is that truck there and what could possibly happen there. And in that situation, it might be the same thing. You identify the truck because of the cone. You predict that, well, what if somebody comes around the truck because they're loading or unloading something? You know what? Maybe I just might need to hug the center line a little bit more to give a little bit more space and maybe back off my speed a little bit to avoid any issues. So you decide and execute by slowing down slightly. That selective searching helps you to give you information to do the things that you need to do safely. All right, what else you guys got? All right, I'll give you one last chance to look things over. But while you are doing that, go ahead and turn your cameras on and let's see your notes. All right. Any last questions? Okay, go ahead and log in and take the Chapter 7 test. So all right, so again, if you're just wrapping up, just make sure you get the test finished. Couple things for today. I'm not sure how on your end with the stream, if you get notifications if I create a post or if I change a post. I don't know exactly how that works. Yesterday I added a post and today I edited a post. So I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of this before we sign off today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So going down to the post that I edited, today, obviously, read notes on Chapter 8. And then I'd like you to go through and view the abate presentation. So again, I don't know if posts show up, but I started a new stream for presentation links. I got my first one yesterday, and I'm hoping to get more in the next day or two. But again, normally in situations like this, we would have a presenter come in and speak to you guys. But since obviously that's not possible, I know some classes are doing it to where presenters are joining Zoom sessions and doing their presentation. But just for the way ours works out, we don't have time to have a presenter come in. Just because we have 10 days and 10 chapters, it's just not possible. So what I reached out for our presenters to do was to record their presentation so you can watch it outside for homework. Now, again, this is something that I need you to make sure that you understand it is mandatory that you do. I'm going to give a short assignment on each one, just answering a few questions just to validate that you did watch the video. I think this video is 35 to 40 minutes long, and they just go through the presentation of motorcycle safety. So there's two sides to that. Some of you think like, yeah, I definitely want to ride a motorcycle and this will be a good motorcycle safety class to take. Others are thinking, this is worthless. I don't plan on ever driving a motorcycle. Why do I need to watch this video? For the most part, it's actually sharing the road with motorcycles, not specifically motorcycles themselves. But I do think the presentation is pretty good. Kids always like the videos that they post, or the videos and the pictures they post in there. But I think it'll be really good. So please watch the video because this is part of your 30 hours of time. You know, if you don't validate that you've watched the video, I can't give you a certificate for the class. So please make sure that you do get that taken care of before Friday. And please don't wait until the last day to get this done, because then I have to go through and do all the grades. I don't have the assignment posted yet. I plan on getting the assignment posted sometime this afternoon. And again, it'll be just a few questions to answer to validate that you've seen the video. So again, all it is a YouTube video here that actually, that's where it'll take you to. Let me double check to make sure here. Okay, yep, so they have that here, and then you just click on the YouTube video. I thought I actually had that YouTube video in there, but that's where it'll go, and that's where it'll take you. So make sure, get the presentation done as soon as you can. Work on your logs. Work on getting an article, get all those loose things tied up, and then after that, all you have to worry about is just finishing up the tests and a couple other presentations as they come in. Any questions for me before we part for the day?
I actually have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
So I missed class yesterday and I emailed you about what I can do to get the hours back, but you never responded. So what would you like me to do to make that up?
Okay, I'll go over that. Just stay after class when we depart, and I'll talk to you about it. All right. If not, have a good rest of your day. If I don't see you on Zoom tonight, I will see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yep,
Thank
you
you.
bet.
Johnson.
Mr. Johnson,
Yep.
me and Lexi are in the same boat. We both, I was traveling yesterday. I was coming home from Okoboji,
Okay.
and so I was. So, what do you want us to do to like make it up?
Okay. So the biggest thing is, Lexi, I thought I sent an email. I thought I responded to you with that. It must not have gone through. So the biggest thing is I posted the YouTube video yesterday. So just make sure go to, I'm going to share my screen real quick. Let's see here. So you just go down to Zoom classes and click on Monday, June 8th, and then just watch that YouTube presentation. Obviously during—
That's all we have to do?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Make sure you take the test because at least this way, it'll put the time back into it. So obviously when it comes time to take the tests for that, on your class, I forgot to hit pause. So it actually recorded all the way through the test. So you don't need to actually sit there and watch everyone take the test. So you taking the test part of it will take care of that and satisfy it. So yeah, that'll be the biggest thing. It's just watch the video and make sure the test is done.
Speaking of tests, I keep trying to log in, and so I'm okay. So is it the DV schools or is it the K-12?
DV schools.
Okay.
Yep. So just make sure you're logged into Google. When you log into Google, make sure it's your username at dvschools.com.
Because it keeps saying that I need to like access, like I need like required access and like to like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It keeps like saying I need like request access to get in.
Okay. Make sure your Google, like your Google itself, is logged into dvschools.com, because sometimes kids log into their K-12 and then they try to log into DV schools and they don't talk to each other. So if you log into Google, when you get into Google, very first thing, so like up here, so if I go to my Google screen here.
Okay.
So right now, it automatically keeps logging me into my K-12 address. So I go down here and I change it to my DV schools. And then I would go to Google Classroom. And then that will take me to—
That makes sense. Okay, I'll try that.
Okay, and that should fix it. I had a few students who are in the same boat, because otherwise if I go to my— so as you can see here, I have both my driver's ed ones, but if I go to my regular account, my K-12 account, and then I try going to Google Classroom, all my old classes show up. So that should fix that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Lexi, anything else?
No, I think that was it. I slept in really late yesterday and I forgot to set an alarm. So
Okay.
I kind of panicked when I missed the class.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry the email didn't get back to you. I thought I replied to that basically just by saying, make sure you watch the YouTube video and get the test in. So yeah, if you can get that taken care of today, that'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you bet. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.